This is an environmental geography class of May 11th, 2011. Wednesday, that's 5/11, right?
Is it?
Yes. And what I want to do is, of all the people that came back from foreign trips this year, I think this class had more to say about what they did than anybody else. I don't think we capture that very well at this school. I don't think we have that as something we can show students who might come here or parents who want to know what our foreign travel program is all about. And I think we've been wrong in not taking advantage of that. Sounds like you guys had a really great session in Bhutan where you got together and talked about things that had an impact on you from foreign trips, and that's what we want to talk about today. You can talk about things from this foreign trip, from another foreign trip. Specific examples or specific stories are the best. I did this and it meant this to me, talking about different places. If you get a little stumped, you can just say a partial thing and come back in later and add to it. No pressure on anybody. We're just trying to capture some of those great thoughts. I want to keep it totally positive. I'm not trying to make any kind of political statement. We're just trying to find out what works about the foreign trips as we have them now. So with that in mind, and it really doesn't matter to me what order we go in. Anybody that feels like they want us to talk can come up here and sit in the chair and tell us stories.
My favorite trips were my junior and senior trips to India and Bhutan. But I think the trips that were good for me as a person, as like an underclassman especially, were Mongolia and Chile. Because Mongolia, my freshman year, my brother had gone there before, and so he warned me, like, the food's going to be awful. It's going to be like a desert. And you have to be, like, careful, like, look what's in your sleeping bag, and, all this stuff. So I took, like, 2 bottles of Pepto-Bismol and, like, a bottle of Imodium with me in my thing, and, like, a half roll of toilet paper, which instantly disappeared down this giant pit of doom. But I thought it was a really great trip for me because I had gone on vacation before. I'd been to, Europe and Costa Rica and whatnot. But this, like, we got to Mongolia, communist blockhouses everywhere. And then a few days in, maybe 5 or maybe 6 days in, we went out and, like, stayed with the nomads in their gurs. And that was such a cool experience for me to have as a freshman, to go somewhere, halfway around the world, the farthest I've ever been from home, with, like, a group of people I knew pretty well by that time. But I was still a freshman. I'm like, little freshman boy, like, that tall. I'm, like, nervous and, like, kind of in my shell. If I had a shell back then, I had a shell back then. But, and I thought that was a great way to, like, break out and kind of see, a foreign trip for what it really was. And then
I think as a freshman going to India was kind of just eye-opening experience for me. I felt like my childhood had been kind of sheltered before that, and it was a nice opportunity to see a different part of the world and see how other people live and that kind of thing. And then I think everything was it felt very new. It was all very, I don't know, just like fresh kind of feeling traveling. And then
first, like, the most basic thing is, especially in coming as a freshman, foreign trips teach you how to travel, which is a very valuable skill, throughout life. And, it teaches you how to handle yourself, when you're pushed out of your comfort zone, or, just how to deal with being in a foreign country, whether with a group or by yourself or whatever. And because of that, I'm comfortable traveling alone to a lot of foreign countries, and talking, trying to communicate with people in languages that aren't the same, and different cultures and all of that. But that's really the most basic. I think one of the more important things is that, especially freshman and sophomore years, foreign trip really teaches you, like, who you are and what you're capable of. And I was talking to this woman who's, like, a friend of my family's, and she was saying, I hadn't even really been saying much about foreign trip, but she said, oh, it's incredible to learn who you are at such a young age. And that's completely true, because foreign trip has definitely shaped who I am, and what I'm passionate about.
So I was coming into foreign trip a little worried about the whole, I'm used to more of independent travel, and this was definitely group travel, but I got put on Bhutan and Thailand with most seniors and 3 juniors, And it was definitely the trip of a lifetime, I'd have to say. I feel like I learned more about myself and the world than I could have in any classroom setting. Bhutan, the second we got off the plane, my favorite part, we were all so excited. Of course, we've been traveling for like 3 days and we're all exhausted, but we land, and as we're coming in, it's like Bhutanese kingdom nestled in the Himalayas, and the plane turns like almost to its side through these Himalayan mountains as we're coming in, and everyone that's in a window seat is like, oh my god, it's Bhutan! And I was sitting with Claire and EJ, and all 3 of us are just like almost in tears, we're so happy. And we get off the plane, and the first thing we see is this like Bhutanese building, and everyone's like screaming, and well, not quite screaming, but just really excited. And I think the feeling that all of us felt, the airport was so traditionally Bhutanese, like it's not like a normal airport you'd see in any other country, and it hit me instantly that I was in Bhutan and I was going to be on this trip with these people for a month, and I knew right at that moment it was going to be great.
I was telling Mr. Linville yesterday about how I had a conversation with someone about how important tradition was to them. And then everything that person did, as well as his entire family, was extremely untraditional. So that's where I, through this whole thing, don't understand what tradition really means to the Bhutanese, but seeing how much they're changing made me very upset. But after some time of contemplation and thinking about it, and seeing how happy a lot of the people in Bhutan are about the change, a lot of them, they either are happy or it just is. They don't care. It's just happening. And that kind of confused me, because I would have thought that they wouldn't want the change up, because they obviously had been trying to keep out Western influence for so long. So I thought about this one saying that my mom has told me my whole life, and I have always taken it to heart in my life, but the saying is, taking for permanent that which is only transitory is the delusion of a madman. And I had always taken it and applied it to my life, embracing change or just letting change be. But that was the first time I'd ever taken the time to look at the world and think about, why is it that I'm so fine with change in my life, but I'm upset by change in the Bhutanese people's lives?
One of the main things on the foreign trip that was impactful for me was being able to talk to the people of the country and see what their impression of the world was, the way they viewed the world, the way they lived their lives, and I guess comparing and contrasting to our lives. But I guess one story that impacted, or one moment that impacted me a lot on the trip was when it was our second day of hiking, and we were hiking down a ridge, and I asked one of our guides what gross national happiness meant, and I asked everybody how to measure it. Nobody answered it to me, how they measure it, and nobody answered it. I mean, I still don't know how they measure it, but I got a lot of interesting answers, and one of our guides told me that happiness to him was waking up in the morning and being happy, which is, I mean, it's kind of like a simple thing, but like where we were and everything all together, it made a lot of sense to me. And to me, it meant like happiness is a choice, like happiness is something that is possible, and I don't know, especially just being with the group and hiking through the mountains of Bhutan and seeing the people of Bhutan and the way they live their lives, I guess, made me realize that happiness is like a core, it's a feeling that stays with you, like, despite whether you have, like, enjoying the little things or not. But I guess the GNH, which I still don't understand, answer a lot of questions.
My junior year, I got put on a trip to Bolivia, and at first I was kind of worried about it. I was the only upperclassman on the trip, and only 3 other kids had traveled before on foreign trip. And so at first I was kind of nervous that that would be kind of an issue and that I wouldn't really connect with any of the kids. But we had a ridiculous amount of issues on our trip. We were on schedule one day of the entire time. We had health issues, passport issues, serious health issues. We had 3 kids in the hospital at one point, and 1 kid had to leave the trip. We got stuck in the jungle. The airport was flooded. Like, we got home 2 days late. It was just kind of ridiculous always, and that was actually an amazing experience for me to grow. I got a chance to step up as a leader because Margie and James were never really together, and so they always needed someone else to kind of step up, and that was big for me because I'd always been kind of shy and never really thought of myself as someone that people would listen to, and so that was good for me, and just kind of knowing that everyone was staying really positive and that we could overcome so many obstacles showed me that being positive and living every day to the fullest is something that I wanted to do more in my life, and I had never really thought about it.
The most important thing for me on foreign trip have been the community service projects that I've been on. In Argentina, my freshman year, we went to a remote tribe called the Wichi, and their land is being taken out for soybean farmers, and they live in the rainforest. And then we went there and we started going to the school and learning about how they go to class, and the school provides them 1 meal a day in the morning, so they have food because they can't really afford it. And then we decided to help them by building 3 gardens so they could provide their own food for the school. And like we made plans for soap so they could actually have sanitation. And then so we did that for 3 days, and then on the 4th day we decided to pick up trash around the village because they don't have any waste management at all, because they're so remote. It takes about 2 hours by bus on a dirt road that's half the year flooded, so they can't get there. And that was an eye-opening experience for me to see the dramatic change between the Lowell Whiteman School and the school that I went to in Argentina, in Salta. And I was proud to see the kids that were so happy for us to come there and help them, because they were living out of mud-bricked homes with 1 pipe for all their water. And I was glad to see that they appreciated us being there.
One of the points that you brought up, Mr. Linville, in that one of the reasons why Chris Taylor is like challenging this is because he wants us to really make the distinction between a vacation and a learning experience. And I think that foreign trip kind of brings out the true want for someone to learn, in that when you go, I've been to, my freshman year I went to Argentina, sophomore year I went to Vietnam and Cambodia, and then last year I went to South Africa, Mozambique, and Swaziland. And when you're in those countries, you have a real desire to actually learn. It's not just like, okay, well I'm going to pick up a textbook and learn about, Vietnam. When you're there, you're kind of like, okay, well we're going to this museum. Well, why are we going there? Okay, who is it about? Why are certain things in this country the way they are? Why do they have a communist flag hung up next to their national flag? Why is it? And if you're there and you don't ask yourself these questions, you kind of just go about the trip like it is a vacation. And I don't think that's what anyone wants, because they want to understand, what's going on around them.
I just feel like you get a lot more of that than you could just get from going, to school every single day. And there's nothing wrong with, going to school and having a normal high school education, but what you get from the foreign trip experience, you just can't get from going to a normal school every day. I mean, you pick up a lot more just being a person and learning what you want to be and who you are and who you will become. You get so much more of just going somewhere where you're completely out of your element and learning how to deal with that, so that later on in your life, when you are not exactly sure what to do, but you know who you are and what you want to be, even though you're out of your element, you're completely okay with it, because you know how you feel and what you believe and what you want to do. And I feel like that's one of the most important lessons you can get out of an education, or a high school education, and foreign trip just perfectly embodies that, I feel.